The UCAT is probably one of the most important exams you're going to sit until your A-levels, and they are essentially one of the key hurdles you've got to pass through in order to get into medical school. Now, the exams are probably underway by the time this video comes out, but I thought it might still prove useful to those of you who have your exams in August and September, which is the majority of you guys. I'm going to talk about what the UCAT is, a little bit more about the fine details about it, and some of my tips and my experience on the day that I sat it. So if that sounds like a good idea to you, let's get straight into the video. So if you don't know who I am, I'm a third year medical student, and I did my UCAT I think about 4 or 5 years ago. So I did mine when I was in lower sixth, so that's year 12 for those of you who don't have that system, and I sat it around a date in September. Now the UCAT itself, for us, and I believe for you guys, is still quite an important exam. It was a different exam than I was used to. It's split into 5 sections, as you'll know, quick run through. You've got your decision making, verbal reasoning, quantitative reasoning, abstract reasoning, and then you've got SJT or situational judgment. Now each of these sections have different number of questions and different time allocations. I'll put them all on the screen here, just so you have them up, but you should already know them by researching and having done past papers and mock papers. So it's just important to know that they all have different time settings, and they also have different question numbers. So for example, abstract reasoning has around 50 questions, whereas the other sections don't nearly have as much. So that's just an important thing to remember, that the timings are very specific to each section. You get a score based on each section, and each section is ranked from 300 to 900, so you can get a score in between 300 and 900 for each section. Now that is applicable to the first 4 sections, so VR, QR, AR, and DM. And then SJT is banded, so you've got bands 1 through to 4. Where band 1 is the best, band 4 is the worst. Now, so the average UCAT score is roughly around 2,500 totaled, which means it's roughly 625 per section. Now that's a fairly achievable score. It's the average, there's a reason why it's the average, and there are a lot of things you can do to sort of put yourself in the 700s, although it'll take a little bit of work and also a little bit of luck on the day. But 600 to 700 is a very good score for the UCAT. That's sort of the aim where you should be going to. Bands for SJT, band 2 and above is pretty good. Band 3 is okay, although you should really be aiming for bands 1 and 2, and band 4 is obviously not ideal. But most people anyway end up in bands 1 and 2. Now, the UCAT itself is sat on a computer, as you'll know, so you won't have a pen and paper like you would on the BMAT or your A-levels or your GCSEs. It's sat on a computer, on a desktop, in an exam center, so a Pearson VUE center that you'll have to book through your own selves. Now, when you turn up on the day, when I turned up, what happened was we had to give our ID, so a passport, to the reception desk to tell us to wait for a bit, and they send us into this room with a bunch of computers and a few people sitting at a few computers. Now the reason why these few people were here is because the centres are also used for driving exams. So your driving exam, your theory exams, that's where they sit those exams as well. The screen's already loaded with the exam. You progress through it as you normally do for mock paper. The key thing to remember is each section is individually timed. Now the way it works is you have a 1-minute reading screen in between each section. Now that screen gives you the instructions to the next section. So for example, for abstract reasoning, before it starts you get 1 minute to read the instructions page for it. But by this point you should already know what it is, obviously. So I'd recommend using this time to recover, recharge, etc. And then you'll have your 12 minutes to sit AR. If you finish early, for example, you can't just move on to the next section. You've got to sit through those 12 minutes. And if you don't finish, you can't come back to abstract reasoning. So once those 12 minutes are over, abstract reasoning is over. You can't come back to it. So it's really important to forget about every other section that you've done, however bad or good or amazing they've gone. Just be focused on the one section, because once those 12 minutes are up, abstract reasoning is done. And then you get another 1 minute to recharge for the next section. After the exam, results-wise, it's also kind of weird. You get your results immediately after the exam, which is a little terrifying. All you do is you walk back out, and the same reception desk, they'll have printed your results out, and they'll hand it to you folded up, and you go outside and read your results. And that's it, that's the UCAT. So it's kind of weird, it's a very quick exam, it's over and done within a day, as opposed to other exams you gotta wait for things. Averages, etc. normally take a few months, maybe like in October they'll come out, because obviously the sitting period ends in like the 20th of September, I think, this year. So it takes a while for that, but you don't really need to know the average for UCAT. You kind of know what score you want. So that's everything that happens in the day, and that's basically a very quick rundown of how the UCAT works. In terms of tips, I might do a few more videos in depth into each sections. If you want to know what I got, I think I got around 2,900 or something. So I know I got an average of like 730, which I was happy with, obviously. But it did take a lot of work. I even pushed my sitting back. I think I was originally meant to sit it in August. I pushed it back to September, which in all honesty, I think affected my BMAT performance because I didn't have much time to prepare for it. So yeah, good and bad, but yeah, obviously I was very happy with it. Resources wise, for the UCAT, a couple of helpful things are, you can use Medify, which I think is amazing. They literally tailor the whole website to you. You can input like when your UCAT date is, how you feel about it, what your strong sections are, and they literally give you a tailor-made sort of program to get you ready for your UCAT. So it's a fantastic website. I highly recommend Medify. I can't recommend it enough. The Medic portal is also pretty good. 6med's decent as well. And then you've also got the UCAT official website. They have their own mocks. I recommend you do those because they're obviously closest to the real thing that you'll actually get. So go and do the UCAT mocks. And honestly, revision-wise, the way I did it is I would do a past paper every day in the morning. So I'd sit down in the morning, do like well, not a past paper, but a mock paper. I then spend the rest of the day focusing on my weaker sections, whether that be decision making, or verbal reasoning, or situational judgment, and then I just do that for the rest of the day. So I focus on like 2 or 3 sections, I do some in-depth questions, I look at what I got wrong, go back to it. The UCAT really is just a case of practice, practice, practice. Unfortunately, there's no like quick hack you can do to get out of it. You just have to sit down and practice, even if it's like 3 weeks before the exam and you're worried. If you sit down and practice every day for those 3 weeks, you will get a very good mark. So literally it reflects how much time you put into preparation, and yeah, that's everything I've got to talk about the UCAT. I wanted to make this video pretty quick because it's just meant to be a rundown on the UCAT. If you want me to make some videos on each section of my tips and sort of going through questions, let me know, I can do that. If you've got some individual queries, you can ask me on Instagram, etc. Aside from that, I will see you all in the next video. See you in a bit.